What are the big challenges affecting studios right now?
Do you ever wish life had an undo button? Walking the balance between business and the creative life can be hard. But Matt and Shelby are here to attempt to answer the tough questions, so you don't need an undo. Presented by Made by Things. This is the CMD-Z Show.
And welcome back to the CMD-Z Show. Shelby, are you pretty good?
I'm pretty good. Oh, I'm doing great.
Pretty good, pretty great.
Great, yeah.
Anything, sorry. Anything, any news? Any news of any sort, Shelby?
We did get more news. So what would be last week, I talked about the nominations for the film for IMPA, the Iowa Motion Picture Association Awards, which is a mouthful. But we got another nomination just out of nowhere. They said, hey, somebody else put in besides you guys, and you got another supporting actor award. So pretty exciting. We got 10 nominations for one of our films. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, found that out this morning.
That's crazy. When will the general public be able to see this? I assume you still have to have it kept under wraps, right?
Yeah, we keep it under wraps for a little while because things have to work through a festival circuit. But it should be coming out most likely on Amazon Prime pretty soon, hopefully. That's a little sneak peek, maybe. Might have to edit this out. We'll find out. But no, so hopefully it'll be coming to the audiences en masse soon.
That's really exciting. It's been really fun to just sort of follow your journey on this whole thing from the very beginning stages, running a Kickstarter and hearing about the late nights of being able to shoot this and everything. So I don't know. It's really cool to kind of see this whole thing full circle from the spectator perspective.
It's a wild ride.
Well done, Shelby.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, enough compliments. So we have a special guest today, Amanda Russell. Amanda, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you guys today. Yay! I'm here.
Yay! Yeah. Amanda, me and you are going to be on a little bit of a panel during Making Midwest. Not only that, but you'll also be speaking by yourself as well. And we're going to try not to spoil any of that stuff. But with you coming into Columbus for Making Midwest, we wanted to get you on the podcast and try to see what we can do to spill the beans early, I guess. I don't know.
Let's do a little peep show, a little motion peep show. It sounds grosser than it is, I promise, but it will be fun no matter what.
We're going to change the title for the podcast.
Yeah, it's going to get a lot of weird
motion
views.
Peep show.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the secret. We just
the big really reveal. Yeah.
Weird with it. Oh, geez. Anyway, so I believe your talk will be on May 17th. I believe yours is on Friday. And then we'll be doing our panel with Matt Garrison, and that's going to be on May 18th. We're going to talk about the state of the motion industry. We might call that motion peep show industry jargon.
Please don't, stuff. But okay. Mac and I will be like, it's not what you think, and I'm sorry.
But yeah, so really looking forward to being able to meet in person for the first time.
Yeah,
I don't think
we get some in real life hugs for the first time, and it's cool because you and I think for like almost a decade, if not a decade, have been kind of following each other's like progress from studio to studio, and like cheering each other on before that was cool to cheer another studio on. So hey, we're trailblazers. Like, that was, everybody was scared of each other back then. But I think, we were really curious. We're like, hello from Virginia, and it's cool to know that even like early on, there were people like you out there that was like, yeah, I'm gonna be a cool guy. I'm super talented, but I don't have to act like I'm too good for anyone. So thank
I've
you.
never said that in my
I
entire
know
life.
you haven't. So, and that's exactly why I liked you right away. So yeah, it's good to be here.
You know, it's interesting that you kind of bring some of that stuff up because even just recently, that is actually something that I hear a lot is like, hey, like you seem like you're like really willing to kind of like push down some of these walls and kind of connect studios that are,
Yeah.
you know, often competing against each other. And to me, like, I honestly just don't even, I kind of forget like that, like maybe there are certain times where we do compete. Most of us do not compete directly with each
Sure.
other. But even like studios locally in Columbus, I'm like, no, I still like talk to everyone. And like, I don't know. It's
Well,
weird. Like I don't
I
see it that
I
way, but
think when you're super competitive and you let that kind of, take over your personality or prevent you from hanging out with people who are probably just like you, you're missing out on the point of our amazing community because I think we had kind of the same situation in Richmond. We were like a block away from Hue and Cry. And we're like, oh my God, they're so good.
mm,
They probably think we're dumb and they probably are mean. And I bet, and like we're like making this up in our
right.
minds, but really they were just cool and they were probably thinking the same thing about us. So I think once, in the early years, like once you realize everybody is actually cool, they just might be a little insecure about, you
Right.
know, I don't know, like hanging out with another studio or whatever. I think once you get over that, you realize like it's just short-sighted. And the long view is you never know where you're going to be working next. You never know what your next collaboration is going to look like or who your next producer is going to be. And so it's better to just learn from each other and just to kind of share the knowledge, and everybody feels so much better when you're on the other side of that fence,
Yeah. No, 100%. It's the high tide raises all ships thing. I
That's
can't remember how
right.
it goes, but
You say that just like I
I don't
do.
know.
It's incorrect, but I get it. I'm like,
You get the
I don't
idea.
even know what it is, but I love how you said it because I'm like,
It's
yeah.
just all the ships they rise together, and
Yeah.
we don't know
And
why.
then we're
Maybe
all
it's the
happy
moon,
about it.
probably the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's that idea though, where it's like, and we haven't gotten to the the real question here, but whenever I came to Columbus from Los Angeles, I guess that was the interesting thing that I saw in Los Angeles, where I was like, a lot of these people are kind of friends with each other. Like there is a
Yeah.
lot of competition here, but like it really is like that. We're on the same street. You have 6 studios that are all like competing for the same work. And now I can't speak for like the owners of all those companies, but I can speak for the artists of all those companies, where it's like they were able to, somebody says, hey, we're doing an event tonight, and able to fill up a theater of 500 people, and all these people at different studios are all together. And I always admired that. And I always said that wherever I go, that's exactly what I want to create. And I mean, it's not that easy, obviously, but like that's the goal anyway. Is
Yeah. I think the smaller town, so I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and when we first started, there weren't a lot of competitors. And so maybe we just didn't have the practice of being around other people and understanding that. And I'm not saying Richmond was like cutthroat by any means. It wasn't. We're still decent people. But I think at first it's like you need permission because there's no culture established. And so it's like, I don't know. I don't know how to act. So, but I am seeing that more and
right.
more where everybody is just like, yeah, I'd rather be friends than, and learn from each other than, play a game where it's just awkward and you feel like you have to look over your shoulder. So I like this much better. And I think that we're like one of the only industries that has fully embraced that. Like we're getting close to full embrace status on the friendly competition. So I hope it continues and spreads. We need it.
Yeah,
We need it.
I agree. And last note on Making Midwest, tickets are still available. MakingMidwest.com. Little plug.
Heck
You
yeah.
like that?
Get your ticket. Get your ticket, everybody.
All
Come
right.
see the peep
Now that we
show.
got
Peep show, buy your ticket. Whatever works, right?
That's where we're at now, I guess.
Okay.
That would have been a good like April Fool's thing. No, probably not. Still, even then. uh, anyway, all right. Shelby, I hear that you have a bit of a question for Amanda. Let's kick it off.
All right. Our big question of the day is, what are the big challenges affecting studios right now?
Ooh, Shelby, you got me good. You got me real good. I have so many answers for this. I'm going to have to go with, how many answers can I give?
It's up to you.
Okay. All right. All right. So first of all, I think it'd be impossible to ignore our previous challenges. So previous challenges, I think, that still exist are not having really control or influence over the budget or the timelines, usually, unless you're really in deep with a client. Not having access to like final results of a campaign, which depending on where you are in a studio, that information can be really helpful when you are selling to more clients, but you often never get it. Lack of a unified process and terminology, which just like I could go on and on and on, but I'm not going to. I'll just keep it there. And then the other thing that everybody's really talking about is like the economy and the influence of AI on that economy. And I know everyone's so tired already, even though we're at the very beginning of what this AI beast is going to look like. I think that it's probably the biggest concern right now, because what it means is uncertainty for a lot of different industries. And when there's uncertainty, everybody pulls back their budgets. And that means we don't know where our next clients are coming from. So that kind of thing can cause a lot of fear. It's not just us, it's everybody else. And on top of that, you've got like our agency friends who have been, cut or laid off. So now your contacts that you've been working with for like years, now they're out of a job. And so you might lose that client based on, their employment. It gets better because, over time they get a new job, you've got double contacts. But right now, when everyone's in the thick of it, it's very doom and gloom, and it can be very scary.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring up a lot of these things,
I know,
because
so many.
just this morning, I'm right there with you. Like, right, I see a lot of what people are saying right now, and I see a bit of negativity. I see a lot of fear,
Mm-hmm.
and it's making people question a lot of things, and maybe some misplaced anger. It's a weird thing where it's like it's affecting everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and
it's coming out
there's definitely
sideways.
a lot of right.
Yeah.
And I guess the thing that I sat down this morning because I was like, you know what would I want my response to be to those people if they were like being like that in front of me, or like asking me what my thoughts were. And it ended up turning into this big LinkedIn post that'll be out in 2 weeks from now. But
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's real. I'm really building this up. But it kind of led me down this path of, I think that the thing that's making people most angry right now might be AI.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that a lot of people are attributing the kind of downturn that we're sort of in right now to AI.
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, I'm like, I don't think that's it. I don't even think it's close to one of the reasons right now why this is happening.
Right.
I guess my thoughts are, yes, as from an economy standpoint, people are afraid right now. And like you said, when they're afraid, they're not going to spend money.
Mm-hmm.
probably still have the budgets, but they just don't want to use it right now because they don't know. They don't know what this future is going to look like in the next 8 months.
Sure.
And I do think that it's sort of encouraged some clients to start dabbling with AI a bit more. But I'm not so sure myself if it's really led to this huge impact on the industry. Not yet,
Not yet.
anyway.
And I think so there's a couple, I have so many thoughts. I have calls about AI so often, and it's not a bad thing. I love it. And I think that that's a part of the process. If you want to stop being afraid, you have to start understanding the problem. And
Right.
so where to start? So here's how I wrap my head around it. I tell myself it's okay not to know everything. And it's so, but try to learn something. And even though you might feel one way or the other about generative art from AI, understand how different platforms are creating that art or image. For those who don't believe it's art, I hear you, image, whatever. But know the difference and understand where you stand, like ethically on both sides, because not every platform uses the same kind of technology or same kind of algorithm. So, like case in point, Adobe, they've got some generative things going on. It's not the same as Midjourney. Obviously, very different platforms in general, but you understand what I'm talking about. So know the base, the general, like where your stance is, but then ask yourself why. Why do I feel that way? And is it just based off of fear, or is it based off of a real threat that it's coming for you and you see it and it can replace what you do today? So after you figure that out, it's a whole thought process, but after you figure that out, you have to start asking yourself, like, did I even want to be doing that thing? Because a lot of the things that I'm seeing they are making pre-visualization faster, but not necessarily the final output faster. Mm-hmm. Because if you have a very clear idea of what you want and what you need, it's going to take a very long time, and you're still going to have to jump into Photoshop at some point, as of right now, to fix a few things, because there's just going to be some wonky stuff. I think the notion that like it's one button or it's one prompt away from replacing you is incorrect, but the argument that it's happening faster and faster on a different time scale than human comprehension, that's a valid point. So there's a lot to think about. And yes, it can be scary, but the way to get past that fear is to learn. You just have to inform yourself, and you'll feel, if anything, so much better. And my last, I know I keep going, but my last thing is like, we will not be the only industry that is disrupted by AI. We're probably just one of the first ones. And right. It doesn't mean that our industry goes away. It means that it changes, but everything is going to change. And so the cool thing that I think is that, yes, we're kind of pioneers in this disruption, this level of disruption, but we're going to be way ahead of things by the time everyone else starts feeling it, because we get it. We have to know tools and technology all the time, but everyone else, where their job is not, to learn these tools, they're going to be, there's going to be a lot more disruption coming. So at least look on the bright side that like we are more prepared than most people to handle this kind of disruption.
Right. I guess I think about it often of like how like the tools that were available, let's say 3D animation for instance, where it's like, let's go back to 1990 for a moment here and let's see how difficult it was to do something like 3D animation.
Yeah.
And since then, every year, like clockwork, something new has come out and made that process easier and more available to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's sort of something that's kind of happening right now, just a little bit different, obviously,
It's
where it's like,
exponential for sure, but yeah.
right. But it's, and we have this conversation all the time where it's like, there's certain things that I'm okay with and certain things that I'm not okay with. And in general, my idea is like, I'm not okay with using AI for like final art, like to just type in a thing and then it's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care. Like if somebody does it, I don't care. I care about myself doing it because I'm like, well, that doesn't really tell the story here,
Mm-hmm.
right? It doesn't do this thing. It's just kind of like, it's the same as searching for stock imagery.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, I wish they were turning this way. And like, you're still in that same general spot. You just have something that looks a little bit different. So I don't know. I guess what I see is like the people that have their identity wrapped up in exactly what it is that they do. So being, if you are a 3D animator and like that is part of your identity and you see this thing sort of moving in a little bit, like I get it, but I don't know. I think maybe it's time for people to take a half a step back, maybe a full step, and just figure out like, okay, what if I'm not that? Like, what if that is not my identity? Who am I then? As a creative, as an artist. And I don't know, like I guess I feel like I did that throughout my career, was like, that's exactly what I did, was I start kind of taking these little half steps back where I'm like, cause that's what initially I was a 3D modeler. Like that was it. That was what I wanted to be, you know? And it was like, you know what, wait a minute. Like, I want to make things move. And so it's like, all right, now it's just animation. I want to make 2D things move. Now it's just a bigger picture of animation, doing stop motion. Like, and then it just turned into like, I don't care what it is that we do. I just want to be able to tell some really cool, interesting stories and to make the style that we use match whatever that story is. Like to me, that's the only goal. And sure, like if I can go into AI and I can type a thing in and I can get that, that's great. Perfect. Fine. Whatever. But like, I just generally don't think that I can make that connection just yet.
I think you bring up a really good point about the placement of ego. I talk about ego a lot, not because I don't have one, because everybody does, but I try to suppress it. You know, I try to keep it quiet as much as possible. But ego, like, it eats fear and it loves fear and it wants to push out more fear. And so you got to keep that in mind when you're afraid. It's because there's an obstacle in the way and you got to get over it. And so how do you get over it? How do you mentally get over it? You got to learn about it. You got to kind of understand it. So don't shy away from it. It doesn't mean that you have to be a user of generative AI if that's not your thing, but just try to learn about it so that you know what you're talking about when you have an argument against it. And you know, I had the same kind of journey where I started out as, you know, graphic designer, and I was a graphic designer, and then I moved on to animator, and I was an animator. And then once I opened up the studio with my two partners, you know, a couple of years down the road, I started realizing I cannot be the only animator for this type of project. Like, we have to have a team. But if I'm not an animator, what am I? I can't be a creative director, like, because you get like bad imposter syndrome and you start kind of freaking out. You don't feel like you have a lot of value to give to projects, but you have the vision. You start realizing over time that being a creative director is really important to a project, but you don't know that until you're on, you know, until you have a little bit of time to really embrace it. So how that relates to AI is that having this idea or this vision is incredibly important. So yes, you need a prompt engineer. No, it is not as easy as just typing something up. You have to know the terminology. You have to know so much about cameras and lighting and shadows and rendering and all of these and illustration. Depending on what your goal is, you have to know these terms. And and composition. And so there's, obviously you have to embrace it, but it's not like the end of learning at that point. All of these tools do is they kind of pack everything into one, and they just do the grunt work for you. But it's very complex, and it is a complex uh, it's a complex issue. And so I would say don't be 100% all in either, and don't be 100% all out. For right now, if you can stand it, be in the middle so that you can learn both perspectives. Get on a call with somebody you might disagree with and have an intelligent conversation and say, hey, I want to know what you know. I did that yesterday and it was fantastic. I disagreed with somebody on LinkedIn, of all places, which has become like the new Facebook of arguing about AI. And the guy was amazing. And we were like, hey, I don't agree with you, but like, let's just jump on a call. That is progress. That is the kind of stuff that's the world I want to live in, is where we can learn from each other and like have some takeaways. So, yes, whatever your question was, I hope that answered it.
All I know right now is that I wish I could vote for you for president in this
Oh,
upcoming election.
thank
That's
you
what
very.
I.
Oh
That's
my
what
gosh. Well, me
it's like, wow, this
too.
is such a good political response.
Like, like be in the middle. That's pretty good for
I
voting right now
Yep.
too.
Yeah, I mean, all right, let's
Right.
not
I
go
know.
there.
I was like, oh God, I've said too much already. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll do politics on the next season of the Command Z show. Which elections do we wish we could undo?
Oh boy.
Um, so, so yeah, I guess one of the things taking a step away from the AI stuff for a minute here. You say that there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to budgets and timelines. Do you think that those things are changed forever, or do you think that that's a temporary thing?
I think that we have as much power as we're willing to assume. And for better or worse, because you can go to your client and say, hey, before we take on this project, I need to know that you guarantee I have XYZ, or that, the timeline looks like this instead of this. However, they have full right to be like, bye. You know what I
Right.
mean? But if you have a lot of time and you have, you know, financial support from somewhere else, you can take as long as you need to build out that structure. But for the majority of people in our industry, I feel like they experience imposter syndrome, which prevents them from having the confidence to go to their client and say, actually, this isn't long enough, or this isn't enough money, or, whatever. So we're always, first of all, like, in projects, we're like the last ones to see a project. And so we have the least
Right.
amount of influence on it, unless we're pulled in early on. But if you can have a great relationship with your client over time, it takes time. You don't treat them like a client, you treat them like a friend. And it's not schmarmy or, manipulative. Like, over time, they're going to start saying, you know what, I really like working with you. And you say, you know what, I like working with you, but I feel like we could do a better job if you could pull us in earlier. And,
Right.
instead of telling us how much time you have, we could tell you how much time we need to get, this level of quality out the door. So it's not forever, but right now, gosh, is it hard? It's hard because the economy is upside down, and even though it's not, but it is. So,
Yep.
but yeah, I don't think it will be forever.
Yeah. And that's interesting you say that too. Like you say it's not, but it is. It's
Another
this really
political
weird thing
thing.
where yeah, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But like to me, I'm like I just focus on the numbers where I'm like, all right, in general, the economy is growing
Hmm.
financially. And it's the weirdest thing, and unemployment numbers are generally lower, but at the same time in our industry, it is very clear and obvious that that is not the case.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are struggling right now. So it's weird because I think it's hard for people to believe because it's like we're in this world, but like in the bigger picture, sure, things might be getting better like as a whole, but not for us, not right now anyway.
Yeah, I think we're in a transitional period. That's what's going on. I think so, just from what I'm hearing. So I always want to say that because who the heck knows what
Right.
everybody else is going to say, but from what I'm hearing, um, budgets are changing, and there's a lot of reasons why, but the way that brands are marketing is changing, and so they're reallocating big chunks of money to things like influencer marketing, which has always, it's been around for a while, but I think
Right.
that the value of it is more enticing to clients right now because it's kind of less work for them and it's less expensive too. So to have something big and shiny, shiny animation, like doing all these things, it has a shelf life of, a month or whatever or less. And it took 3 months to create and a really big budget. It's like, well, do we want to put it there or do we want to put it over here where we get immediate results that might surpass that ad that, a studio created? And so what I would encourage everybody to do is like, that was hard news for me to hear. I did not like that news when I got it, but it helped me to anticipate some of the things that clients might say, some of the reasons why they should go with us instead of something like that. And also maybe we rethink how we're pushing our content, like with the kind of content that we're pushing out, and how we market ourselves. So either way, it's good information to have.
Right. I guess one of the things that I like to think about during these kinds of times, this was like a serious COVID lesson here, which was, I mean, so like I graduated college in 2008. And at that point, we're in the middle of a financial shitstorm, basically. We could say that, right,
Yeah, that
Shelby?
was, oh, I remember it well. Yeah.
And I didn't know, like I had no idea. I had no care at all for anything related to the economy or anything like that. I just know that I spent a boatload of money on college and I would like to work in this industry, please.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so tough trying to navigate that. And not only just navigating that, but like I didn't know what was going on. So everything was just so personal to me at that time. And it took me years to realize what actually was happening during that time. Like I had no idea there was a home crisis. Like I had no idea.
Yeah.
I just thought that I wasn't good enough and didn't deserve to be in the industry or whatever. So like, and that's very much how I took it.